Hi everyone. Today is January 19th, 2024. Recently, we talked about this year we likely will see more merge and acquisition, business development, deal activities in the biotech, pharma company, life science space. Today, there's an interesting interview of the Novo Holdings company in Davos, the World Economic Forum, of the CEO interview the CEO of Novo Holdings, which is a parent company of Novo Nordisk. As we know, they had a huge success in the GLP-1 diabetes space, weight loss, weight control space. Yeah, so today the holding company CEO at Davos talked about they're going to leverage the income, the revenue generated by the GLP-1 medicines, and then to actively seek more deals in Asia Pacific. So it's quite interesting. The company has been hugely successful in the weight loss GLP-1 diabetes space, along with Eli Lilly. Now, in this year, the parent company, I think it's a investment company, the parent company of Novo Nordisk is going to have more activities and seemingly will be more active in seeking deals and with a focus on Asia Pac. Yeah, so next, let's have a listen to the interview.
Tank, I guess bigger than ever, will you be even more active, or will you be active, full stop, in 2024 in buying companies and doing M&A?
Absolutely. So we will continue to scale our activities because, as you said, we obviously have significant dividends coming from our operating companies. We have two operating companies, Novo Nordisk and Novozymes, so we need to scale up and put that money to good work on behalf and for the benefit of the foundation and the great work that they do. So we expect to be busier than ever, and indeed are looking to potentially open one new office this year as well, so taking our total to 7 offices.
So offices, but also M&A. Is there a company that you'd be looking to acquire to make the fit better?
Yes, so we do M&A, particularly out of one of our teams that we call Principal Investments, which is within our life science division. And there we do a fair amount of buyout activity in the life science and healthcare sector. I can't go into too much detail, but we did a couple of the last year, and we anticipate doing a fair amount more in 2024 and indeed going forward, because the cash flows that are coming our way are going to be obviously quite significant if you look at the forecasts in terms of how the GLP-1 class is going to be doing in the coming years.
So a fair amount more. Do you have actually an idea of how much you want to spend and what regions you want to target?
Sure. So we actually just put in place our new strategy, what we call a strategy 2030. That's going to take us through to 2030, and essentially it reconfirms our asset allocation today. And at a broad level, if you look at our investment portfolio, 50% of that is going to be allocated to life sciences. 50% will be capital investments, which is our non-life science activities. We will, roughly speaking, maintain the allocation. Asia is fairly new for us. We opened Singapore 3 years ago. I expect we're going to open another Asia office in 2024, and we see a fair amount of scale that's going to take place there across our life science activities.
And what are you most excited about? I mean, would this be, for example, to target other companies that deal with obesity, or do you feel like you have that covered?
No, so we're not a strategic investor. We don't invest on behalf of Novo Nordisk. Our mandate is to generate attractive long-term returns on the assets of the Novo Nordisk Foundation, obviously for the benefit of people and society. So we are not a strategic investor. We are a return-focused and based investor, and indeed we try and avoid the areas that Novo Nordisk focuses on. So we are not investing in diabetes and obesity as such. But we think about it more in terms of our divisions and our groups. So we've got a venture team doing biotech ventures, and we see a lot of activity there. We actually had a very active year because we found valuations very attractive. As you know, the biotech sector took a bit of a hammering starting in about late 21. So we found 23 an very interesting time to take advantage of that. Then we have a growth equity team, and then we have the principal investment team, which is our buyout team. But growth equity in terms of Asia is a very exciting place, and that's where we're deploying a lot of capital.
Even in terms of valuations?
Even in terms of valuations, actually, yes. I mean, I think we have seen some interesting opportunities. Obviously, India is a bit of an exception to that. Valuations are, yes, I mean, we all know where the multiples are. But actually, yeah, we're, across the rest of Asia, we see some very interesting opportunities. But despite the valuations in India, we have been very actively investing.
I mean, India has high valuations for a reason.
Correct.
Right? Is there a place for India to almost rival China now that geopolitics is changing, really I guess, trade war?
Yeah, I mean, depends what you mean by rivalry, but certainly India is becoming a very important destination for the reshoring that's taking place. But, we don't think about it in terms of rivalry. We think about it in terms of the healthcare opportunity. And whether it be China or whether it be India, if you look at the healthcare needs of those societies, they're significant, and that's exactly what we're investing against.
And again, if you look, for example, also at insurance in India, this is something, health insurance. It's not something that's, it's something that we're really just at the cusp of that.
Absolutely. So I'd even go broader. I would say universal healthcare coverage across Asia, including India. I mean, that's clearly, as these societies develop, as the middle class grows, it's an inevitability. It's a question of time. We're beginning to see the beginnings of broader healthcare coverage, but several of those nations have ambitions to have universal healthcare coverage in place. So that, plus the combination of the burgeoning healthcare insurance industry in those markets, I'm glad you mentioned that, because those are exactly the sort of themes that make us excited about the region and why we're investing so actively there.
And this is really, is it like a 2024 game changer in terms of actually making sure that the trend is there? Does it depend on growth, I imagine, right? But also the mentality of politicians there and what the citizens want.
Yes, I mean, I don't know if 2024 is necessarily a game changer. I think these trends have been working themselves for a while. But certainly we see an acceleration of these trends. But 22, 23 were all very exciting years for us in that region. And aside from Asia, of course, we will be scaling some other of our activities as well.
Were you surprised at how much, of course, the obesity treatments really captured valuation, captured the imagination of everyone? Because it seems that every single life science biotech company now wants to be in that space.
Yes, no, it's obviously, Novo Nordisk has really blazed a trail in terms of obesity treatment, and I think the scientific data, particularly around semaglutide, if you look at things like the SELECT trial data, all really talk to the comorbidities. I mean, that's the important thing that we need to be focused on. This is not just about obesity, it's about all the comorbidities around obesity, whether it be cardiovascular diseases, kidney diseases, hypertension, etc. And I think the scientific data today clearly supports the trend and the need to treat obesity in order to treat a lot of other conditions, and that in turn speaks to preventive healthcare and medicine, which I think is something that is critical for our societies to be focused on.
So how much do you expect that market to continue growing in the coming years?
I can't comment on specifics, and that's obviously for the company to comment on, but the forecasts are all out there in terms of analyst research, and every time I open an analyst research report, the number is even higher. So I think as there's a broader appreciation, and as the scientific data and publications like the SELECT trial data from Novo Nordisk support the need to treat obesity in order to also treat these other comorbidities, that's going to be a very positive tailwind.
Now, we've had a number of fabulous conversations on inflation, because this, of course, is what is slightly obsessive for investors and monetary policy. If inflation comes down, and I don't know whether you think we've reached peak, does it make your life easier as an investor?
Yes, I mean, I think what makes our life easier as an investor is more importantly certainty. I mean, at the end of the day, whether inflation is at 2 or 2.5 or closer to 3, I think the world will adapt. But clearly, I think this is one of the things that's going to add to volatility in 2024, despite what I believe to be a very constructive, actually, economic backdrop, is the uncertainty about when will rates start to decline, by how much, and indeed what is the terminus where they will finally settle. And you put that along with the geopolitical issues that are before us, and I think 2024 will be a year where we need to fasten our seatbelts, so to speak.
Yeah, so I think that this is one of those once-in-a-generation opportunities. And, we put out a report last week, and I basically looked at the best performing trades of the last 50 or 60 years. And, the one thing that they have in common is, they start out with huge skepticism and scarcity of capital, but by the end,
Okay, yeah, so this is a few that's very interesting highlight in terms of a Novo Holding priority, if you will, in 2024. For one, they're going to invest 50% of their fund in science, and they're going to focus on Asia Pacific. That's quite interesting. Yes, some other funds may have more focus on the U.S. North America region. But Novo Holdings is going to focus on Asia Pac. He also highlighted that they will avoid Novo Nordisk going to focus to area like weight loss, diabetes. So this is a Novo Nordisk's parent company investment arm. They're going to avoid the pharma companies focused area. And then they're going to deploy a lot of capital to Asia Pac region. And you mentioned about India and China. Similarly, they are a little bit. They feel the India valuation probably high, probably expensive, but with some reason. China obviously is another focused region. In addition to that, you also mentioned about the countries with the universal health care. Similarly, they feel in the countries with the universal health care coverage, there will be more opportunities. Um, and then, yeah, similarly, they expect to, they're talking about the why the obesity treatment can become so popular, so important, and highly viewed by numerous pharma companies. Obviously, market size is some of the key reason. They also talking about the more of a preventive care because of treating obesity, not only reduce weight, but also proactively take care of other comorbidities, other conditions such as cardiovascular disease, kidney diseases, hypertension, etc. So maybe overall be more beneficial to the patients and the society. Another thing he mentioned was inflation, the uncertainty of this year when inflation is going to actually going down. There's some uncertainty, and then adding the geopolitical uncertainties. The CEO advice was to fasten the seatbelt. Yeah, so this is a quite interesting interview. Please let me know what you think. If you like this kind of topic, leave whatever comments you may have and your thoughts. Thank you very much.